Hi guys, so it's Luke here for SimBoxx. Delighted tonight to be joined by the WBO Super Welterweight Champion of the world, Natasha Jonas. Natasha, how are we doing?
I'm all good, thanks.
Yeah, so I appreciate we're on a borrowed time here. The Liverpool game's on as we speak. It's a big, important time of the season. You know, how's the nerves with the football?
I remember a Leicester fan a couple of seasons ago when they won it, and he had a bet on at the start of the season, and obviously that like the cash out was massive. And he was saying like in the end he ended up cashing out because he couldn't enjoy it, and that's kind of where we're at the minute. Like I can't enjoy the Prem, even though we've got all the others. Like it's the Prem kind of I won again, and you can't really enjoy it while it's all close and tense, and yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah, it's a bit of a tightrope you guys are walking at the minute with on the verge of winning the quadruple, but then at the same time on the verge of being left with just the Carabao Cup in a way. So it's a bit of a gilt-edged sword in a way, isn't it? You know, you've got to try and enjoy it, but at the same time, it could all come crashing down with a couple of wrong results.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, don't get me wrong, what a time to be a fan because I can't even remember ever having a season like this. So, but yeah, it's at the same time like I've probably been to more matches this year as well than ever, and I'm just like, oh, it's getting me.
So with the way things are standing at the minute, you know, final thing on the football, gun to your head, would you take the Premier League or the Champions League if you could only take one?
Champions League for the simple fact of how good them nights are.
Special moments.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, as a Man United fan, I don't think we'll be seeing them anytime soon. You know, we're a bit of a barren spell.
I didn't want to say.
Yeah, so onto the boxing, and I think there's only really one place to start. Let's go back to February. You took the decision to move up considerable weight divisions to take on Chris Namus for the vacant WBO welterweight title. Firstly, can we just go back to the decision to move up in weight? I know the opportunities were becoming few and far between down at super feather and maybe lightweight with a couple of undisputed or unification fights on the horizon. So you took the decision to move up to super welterweight. Just take us through in your words why that decision came to be.
Well, when I first, obviously, I wasn't like signed to Matchroom, but when the decision came to sign with Boxer, one of the things that Ben had, like said, I promised I will get you a world title. So that was like I was saying, you know, obviously Eddie had a lot of the title holders in his stable, which made it easier to, you know, go down them routes and have them rematches. But the package with Boxer was better. And he promised me, I promise you, I'll get you a world title. He said it might not be in the what you want, you're in, but I'll get you a world title. I said, fine, that'll do me. So then when we looked at the options, I think McCaskill just weren't really fighting. Chantel was in a tournament. Katie was at the start of a 2-fight deal with Serrano. And I would never make super feather. I knew that. I would never make that again. So that limited my options to literally nobody. And then like out of absolutely nowhere, Ben just said, right, we can get you the super welter. Would you take it? I didn't even ask who. I just said yeah. And then obviously it was Iwa Piakowska at first. And then I don't know whether she contracted COVID. I don't really know what happened there. But then there was a scramble trying to find somebody else because there was no one. And then obviously Namus was the only person that did sanction. And obviously, and yeah, we ended up getting Namus. And yeah, I haven't looked back since.
Yeah, superb. It was a great night, and we'll touch on that in a second. But obviously, as a fighter, you're not going to turn down anybody. You'll fight anybody that's put in front of you. But in terms of maybe Joe Gallagher or your team around you, was there any kind of trepidation in terms of the additional weight? You know, we're not talking going up a couple of pounds. It was it 2-3 divisions above where you'd been at? So
Yeah.
was there anything from Joe Gallagher in terms of, you know, and ahhing? Because you're going to fight anybody put in front of you.
Yeah, I think we all, I think everyone had the reservations, especially like. Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, all good.
I'm trying to click my cousin off, but she keeps on coming. Sorry. I think there was a few reservations. Obviously, it was a huge jump up. Not many people do it. But it's not unusual in female boxing. You've seen the likes of, both Serrano sisters do it. Heather Hardy's done it. And there's a few others that are still competing today. But once I had the opportunity, I can't turn it down. I'm in a situation where I've asked for a fight and I got it. I got what I asked for. So you can't start saying, well, actually, I wanted them opportunities. I wanted to prove myself at world level. I wanted a world title. And that was, like I say, part of the deal. And Ben got me that. So I can't then be fussy about who I'm fighting for it or, what weight it was. It was just a case of, yeah, you've got me. Right. Okay. Get the team on board and then let's do it. So
in the build up to the fight, it must have felt quite surreal that you weren't cutting as much weight as what you'd done previously. And I know you come in below the 154 limit, but did you feel like you could enjoy camp a little bit more? I don't know if that's the right word, but you could have enjoyed yourself in terms of meal preps and things like that, and that it weren't as strict maybe as what it would be if you was cutting down to 135 or below?
I wouldn't say that it weren't as strict because there was a lot of science that went into that camp. It's just not just a case of, eating less. Eating more and training less. It's not that. I had to build myself up to the weight. I actually expected her to come in a little bit heavier. She done me a favor by coming in. I think she was only a pound. I think she was a pound under what I was. So she done me a favor by coming in light as well. But yeah, it was just. I'd been at that weight for a very long time. I'd sparred at that weight. I'd got like the top amateurs in that weight division to train with and, to make sure that I could perform at that weight. And when you are like, I suppose, cutting weight, until you officially step on them scales, your brain and your mind is all focused on, Friday, which is usually the weigh-in day, and you stress about, even though you're going to make weight, you still stress until it's official. Like nothing's official. So it was mad that I knew I was so far under that there was no way I was going to be over, and I'd been that way for about 4 or 5 weeks. It was all I was focusing on the whole fight week was the fight, which was mad because then by the time I got in the ring, I'd already done 1,000,000 rounds in my head the whole week. So it was nice to not have them concerned, but at the same time, it was stressful in another sense of that all I was thinking about then was the fight.
Yeah, absolutely. So speaking of the fight, let's get to it. It was a packed out Manchester Arena. We had Amir Khan Kell Brook as the main event, and you was there as chief support. What a special moment that must have been, the heartache of the Terry Harper fight with a draw and Katie Taylor razor close decision loss to bounce back and get in there and at the third time of asking get that world title. Such a special moment. And it's talking of the fight, you dropped her in the first round, you finished it in the second. Was you surprised at all that maybe you thought that was going the distance and that you had a 10-round game plan, or did you know that you was going to carry the power up? Was you not surprised maybe?
No, I was definitely surprised. I had full intentions of going the 10 rounds, and Joe had made a point all camp of like, you are not going to knock this person out. Like this was going to be 10 solid hard rounds, and that's what I trained for. I had Cindy in the training room, Cindy Ngamba, who's like one of my main sparring partners for that camp. And we were just going through drills, and one of them was a slip backhand hook, and literally I was doing it 5 minutes before, and like you get all your prep talk, and Joe was like talking it off, and then but the last thing he said was like, make sure you enjoy it because it's a big moment. It's a nice moment. And so I thought, I've got like a mix of 2 songs. I thought, right, for the first song, I'm gonna like the first bit of the song, I'm gonna look around, I'm gonna like enjoy the moment. Second, like Who Runs the World, I'm just gonna walk in and I'm not gonna touch anyone. I'm just gonna be focused, and that's what I did. And I think probably only the Olympics in 2012 compares to that moment, because when I was standing there looking around, the lights are down, there's 20,000 people, about 10,000 of them have got the phones out, you can see all the lights. It was unbelievable. And then to actually finally get the belt that I've been searching for, it was very, very special.
Yeah, absolutely. Ironically, it actually reminded me of a fight with a different Joe Gallagher fighter a few years ago. There was the Anthony Crawler Dallas Perez first fight, and on the undercard, Scott Quigg fought Kiko Martinez, and that was expected to be a 12-round grueler. And Scott went in there and he demolished him in 2 rounds. And Yeah, it was eerily similar. That it was a Joe Gallagher fighter. That it was meant to be a tough like golden distance fight, and it was over in 2 rounds. Ironically enough.
Yeah, I don't mind getting compared to Scott. He's one of the good ones to get compared to.
Absolutely. So previously when we spoke, I think it was either before or just after the Katie Taylor fight, you mentioned something about your daughter and the disappointment that you didn't take the world title home. And did she go to school and draw a medal or something along those lines? So to go home now with an actual world title must have been a great experience for you, your daughter, and the family.
You know what? I had it like planned out in my head, like it was going to be some big Hollywood moments, and like, I'd run to her, she'd run to me, I'd give her the belt, we'd all like cry and cuddle and swing each other around, and it wasn't actually like that. It was just a case of like, "Hi, mummy, well done," give her a kiss. But it was nice, and she got a bit of bragging rights because the school asked me to come in and do an assembly, and she was like, that probably the first time at the schools that she hasn't liked it, and like she's like holding my hand, she's like, "This is my mummy," you know what I mean? So that was nice, and I suppose that was nice for her because all her little friends are like, "There's Beela's mum."
Absolutely.
But yeah, like the thought I had in my head wasn't actually what happened, the reality of what happened.
Brilliant. So before we touch on, what may be next, but something that I was intrigued to ask, once you'd won that world title and you'd tick that box finally, was there ever a question there that you was going to call it a day at that point and be like, you know what, I've won the world title. I'm happy with my career. You've had those big fights. You've got, been to the Olympics. Now you finally tick that final box, jump that final hurdle, or did it reinvigorate the hunger to go on and achieve more?
Yeah, I think once you kind of hit one goal, there's always a next one. And because like I am literally like, there isn't a thing I haven't done. And I am like, I look back and I look at them big occasions and think, wow, they are special, and there's things that I'll never forget. But as an athlete, I like, I've still got more to give, and I can still do better. I'm still improving. So that kind of, once I say to me, like, once I can feel it physically and I feel it mentally that I can't give any more, then that's the day that I'll probably walk away. I don't want to stay in this game forever either. And I don't want to become a stepping stone for anyone. Like I kind of thought I was becoming for the Terry Harper fight. Not me thought I was coming, but I suspect that other people thought, Tasha's a good name to have on their record and whatever. So I don't want to become that person either. So, when I feel that I'm not competitive and I feel that I can't mix it with the best, then that's the day that I won't.
Yeah, absolutely. So, obviously female boxing is at an all-time high. I don't think it's been at the peak it's at the minute. And there's a lot of big fights, some super fights, the likes of Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano, yourself and Katie Taylor. And some of these fights have got background, a bit of a backstory, like Clarissa Shields and Savannah Marshall. They've got that amateur beef, and yourself and Katie Taylor had the amateur background. Now, one big fight that seems to be on the rise and that we've kind of almost accidentally stumbled into is yourself and Hannah Rankin, which from out of nowhere is going to be a unification, all British unification fight, should she be victorious this weekend, of course, in her own fight. But that's a huge fight in itself, which, 8-10 months ago would have been absolute fantasy fight, and it would have been, miles out of any realm of possibility.
Yeah, basically, again, it's just opportunities. I went, like I say, I went up them weights to open the doors and have the doors, a little bit of leverage, because there was a lot of risk for no rewards. No one wants to fight someone that could potentially beat them, but is going to beat them for nothing. But now you've got the belt, people are more willing to take them fights because they potentially can win a belt. And I'm still kind of in the same position, Katie potentially will have another rematch with Serrano. McCaskill's fighting somebody in a couple of weeks. I think Chantel's in her own tournament and fighting Bustos. And then, yeah, I'm never going to make super feather. So I'm still, nothing's really changed in the sense of the bigger picture, but you unify, and like I say, you've got more leverage, and maybe then I could go on to ask McCaskill, go back down to lightweight. You just opened doors, and that's what I needed, because no one was willing to take the opportunity or give me the opportunity, I should say.
Absolutely. So, of course, with the idea in mind of Hannah Rankin being the next feasible big fight, with her fighting this weekend, is there a possibility that you'd get in maybe a voluntary defense in the meantime before fighting Hannah Rankin maybe later in the summer or in early autumn? Is there a plan for what's next immediately?
Yeah, I think for me personally, I like, you just don't get no credit for fighting somebody who's not world level, and it doesn't make sense for me to risk it when I've got that unification lined up, all going well for Hannah. And it's, yeah, so for me personally, I'd rather just wait. Maybe it might be the case that I do have one, but at this time, I don't feel like I need to. I'm happily, training even now as we speak, not intensely, but I'm training, keeping myself ready, keeping myself active in case, an opportunity before that does come up. But I want to be, I have to have something to bite at mentally for me, to bring out the best. And I don't think going kind of back down will give me that edge that I need. I like sometimes it being tough.
Absolutely, you can't disagree with that with some of the fights you've had recently. But I want to touch on the Katie Taylor fight. We've mentioned it a couple of times. The razor close victory over Amanda Serrano, record-breaking viewing figures, record-breaking crowd, the first ever all-female headline clash at Madison Square Garden. As a female boxer, even though Katie Taylor is a rival of yours, a previous opponent, I'm sure that was a proud moment for you as a boxer to see two fellow female boxers go in and put on such a show.
Yeah, I don't begrudge any female boxer getting everything they can and all their glories. And I think Amanda said it right we won, and that's for all of us, because that's going to open doors for many others to follow, and many other platforms to potentially put them kinds of fights on, because there is, like we're saying, there's some super female fights to come, and that puts pressure on everybody else to step their game up, because the fights are there. Even Baumgardner and Maya, there's some super fights. So the platforms are going to look and see that and see how successful. Because sometimes it was like, can they do it? Can they sell it? Can they? Well, that's just proved everybody wrong. And I think a lot of boxing fans, appreciate women's boxing at its highest level, and I don't think that kind of, we don't want to see it, that kind of attitude is old and dated, and it's gone. They just want to see two competitive fights like they do with the men, and that's everybody appreciates a good fight no matter what the sex is.
Absolutely. In terms of the fight itself between Katie and Amanda Serrano, did you agree with the decision? Do you think Katie done enough to win, or did you maybe see it differently?
I honestly couldn't have argued either way. If Serrano would have got it, I wouldn't have. I wouldn't. It wasn't this robbery that people are saying, and Katie got it, and you couldn't argue. There was obviously some moments in the fight that I've never seen Katie in that much trouble, and I actually tipped Serrano, and I'm happy to be proved wrong before anyone jumps on me back, but just styles make fights, and that them styles just gelled. She's a come forward, aggressive southpaw, and it was just just all wrong for Katie, but like I said, Kate, there isn't a fighter out there that Katie hasn't fought, and just their little bit of experience, I think, shows. But up until the last bell, they were both still, throwing bombs and trying to get each other out of there. And I think that was because neither of them knew convincingly whether the other had won or not.
Yeah. So, in terms of those kind of fights, like yourself and Katie Taylor, that was an all-time classic. The two fights with the film Pursoon, and now this fight with Amanda Serrano. Do you think there's only so many times Katie Taylor can go to the well and dig deep and grind out these kind of victories before she is beaten? Because it seems to be getting closer and closer every time, with all due respect. She keeps pulling out the wins, but it's getting closer and closer every single time.
I think what happens, which is exactly what happens in the amateurs, Katie set the bar for a very long time, and everyone was trying to catch up to the bar. Now she's set the bar, and exactly the same things happen. Everyone's catching up to the bar. So, every fight, it comes a different style, and you see another flaw. Because when I'm sitting there just, you know, commentating on fights, I look for the good and bad in both, and I can see it. But when I'm looking at someone as a, you know, a future opponent, I'm looking to, you know, dissect them bit by bit and look at all their weaknesses and the strengths. And when you do that, fight by fight and style by style, you can see something that's lacking in each one. The same with any fighter, like, you know, she will do it about me. But yeah, you do start to see things and patterns and whatever. And sometimes I think as well that Katie is like a victim of her own standards, because she has been so high for a long time. We kind of expect that all the time, and you can't have an amazing fight all the time. You can't blow everybody out the water all the time. Kind of happened a little bit with Callum Smith. You know, everyone expected Callum to just knock every single person out, and it doesn't happen. So yeah, you can be like a victim of your own successes in that way as well, which it's probably a little bit of a mix of both.
Yeah. So in terms of that fight, you mentioned that you didn't see a robbery at all. I think the main person that was calling robbery was Jake Paul. What's your thoughts on Jake Paul, both maybe not so much as a fighter, but in the fact that he was part of the promotion, and you know, you see how much credit Eddie Hearn give him in terms of making that fight, and that it wouldn't have been done without Jake Paul. So take away the fact that, you know, he's a YouTube boxer or whatever, but in terms of being a promoter in the biggest all-female boxing fight of all time, like what's your take on that?
You know what? Like when he comes out and he's fighting and he's talking and he's fighting these people, I absolutely couldn't bear him. Like literally, I was like, I can't wait for someone to knock him out. Like literally, but then I hate to admit it, but he is growing on me. Like, because he calls it out for what it is. You know, like he's, you know, called out the UFC for what it is, and about the how they pay fighters. He's called out, you know, for women's boxing. He's given as much as, like, Katie's a bit of a, you know, on her own. She's Ireland's golden girl and has been for a very long time. She could get half of Ireland to watch it in any stadium. So she's a little bit different, but like, you know, the platform that he's given Serrano and the things that he adds to the sport, I do. It's hard to not like what he does and what he says, because, you know, as a female within the sport, you know, I agree. So it's hard for, like, as much as at first I couldn't stand him, like now that he is actually growing on me, that's what I will say.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I don't want to take up any more of your time. I know you got the football to get back to.
I'm just trying to look in the microwave to see it, so still 1-1. You're all right.
So final question, and it will be football related. How many trophies did Liverpool finish the season with this year?
I would love to say 4, but I'll be happy with 3.
How the times have changed.
Oh, I tell me about it.
Absolutely, Tasha. It's been a pleasure as always. I thank you for the time, and we'll catch up again real soon.
Oh, nice one, Luke. Thank you.